Hey now! What is up, everybody? My name is Mike Brown, aka Review King MB. Oh, I killed the horse. Oops. I killed Mr. House! Well, he's not my Mr. Horse, so. This is a little bit of a detour review because I saw that Twisters not only came out, was in theaters for like a month, maybe not even a month, but it's already available for digital. And they wonder why movie theater are dying. The whole experience of movie theaters is dying. But before I watch that movie, I decided to go back and rewatch Twister, the original, which was a 1996 film that was directed by John DuPont. And I gotta be honest, I think I watched this movie as a kid. I mean, I'll say I'm 75% sure that I watched Twister as a kid, whether it was on TV or maybe I saw it in theaters. I don't know, but whatever it was, I didn't see it a lot of times. This isn't a movie that I rewatched and that I would feel confident saying I grew up on. I was just aware of it. I know of it. Watching it now almost felt like the first time I had ever seen it. There's a lot of things I didn't remember or whatnot. I knew that it starred Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt. That's probably the extent that I could have told you. And also I knew that cows were involved. But the plot, very straightforward, is that you follow this group of people who chase tornadoes, which has always been one of the craziest, whether you want to call it job, occupation, or a crazy as fuck hobby. Who knows? But either way, people do it. And these people are doing it. And it's mostly following the two main leads, Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt, as they were a married couple that are in the process of getting divorced. Bill Paxton is in fact engaged to a new woman who's being dragged across in this adventure. But it's the two of them sort of being forced to work together with that tension while dealing with some of the craziest tornadoes that have probably happened on screen. And I gotta say, I really enjoyed watching this movie, whether it's the first time or just a rewatch. I mean, I thought this movie had a lot to it. Whether it was, because I do admit there is a part of watching this movie that feels very 90s. The style of it, the tone of it, the two actors, like a lot of this movie feels 90s, oozes the 90s. And because I grew up in the 90s, because that's my childhood, I couldn't help but feel back at home. Like this is the type of movies that I would watch and grow up on. And so that was a nice feeling. But also the two main leads, the big reason why this movie works. Because I'm not sure if you had just put anybody in these roles, people who aren't as likable, aren't as charming, I'm not sure it would have worked. Bill Paxton is clearly a guy who maybe has some anger issues and maybe gets too emotional or wrapped up when you say the wrong thing to him. But we also haven't really seen their relationship. We didn't see their marriage. So we're only told through bits of dialogue and arguments of what potentially that could have been like. And so I don't want to beat up on Bill Paxton all that much because you see that he is trying to move forward. He is trying to get things moving for his new relationship. His new fiance is played by Jamie Gertz, who I know I've seen her in stuff back in the day. Helen Hunt, though, it's a very interesting role for her, a role that I'm not sure like she had done a lot of, whereas she's playing this daredevil. She's playing this person who's not afraid, who's just willing to get down and dirty and kind of says, fuck yeah, let's go. But also you see that she doesn't want to let go of Bill Paxton. She's kind of avoiding signing the divorce papers. She's avoiding them going at it, and she just kind of wants to pretend like everything's good and everything's okay and let's just go do this and let's do that. And so she's a little bit of a spunky character. She's a little bit of a person that makes me look at her and say, I don't even really understand why Bill Paxton wants to divorce you. I know she has a lot of issues with what happened to her as a kid, and I know that it's making her obsessed with these tornadoes, so there's that. But for all of the times that I would hear as a kid that, oh, Helen Hunt is the best leading lady of the 90s. Helen Hunt is the go-to actress to put in your rom-com or whatever movie you want to have for a love interest. And maybe because I was younger back then, I didn't really see it. But now, so many years later, me watching at the age that I am now, I see the appeal of Helen Hunt. I look at her and I go, yeah, she's not Pam Anderson, but she's more the person that you would probably want to marry. She's attractive enough to where you're like, yeah, cool. But also, she has this likable demeanor to her that kind of makes you just want to hang out with her. Or you know what I mean? It might sound weird. I guess I'm just trying to make sense of why the craze for Helen Hunt was so prevalent back in those days. The other actors, the cast in this movie was pretty phenomenal. You have Cary Elwes, who plays a dick. And I'm not saying every movie Cary Elwes plays a dick, because he doesn't. There are some movies where he's a nice guy, he's a good guy. But playing a dick comes very natural for Cary Elwes. And so seeing him in this, I'm like, yeah, this absolutely checks out. He's the rival. He has another team that is also chasing tornadoes, and he kind of does some messed up stuff to get what he wants. Alan Ruck is a part of the group, and I saw him and thought, wow, Alan Ruck, that's random. Philip Seymour Hoffman, who's probably the most fun character in this movie, just the energy that he brings and the lightheartedness and the fun-lovingness that he brings with it, especially because at this point, I don't think I really knew Philip Seymour Hoffman for anything. I know him from much more serious stuff later, and I know he dabbles into comedy, but he was great here. Also, I love that Helen Hunt had this device that she pretty much created called the Dorothy. Great name. But I love that her obsession was that she wanted to be able to predict tornadoes far in advance that we're able to now. You're only able to do it in like a couple of minutes, and she wants more time for more warnings to keep more people safe, because obviously that hits home for her. So that actually made her character very relatable and understandable. But the biggest takeaway probably that I got was how impressive the special effects were. Now, I assume it's computer generated. I'm not saying in 1996 there weren't computer generated stuff going on. Obviously, even a movie like Jurassic Park has CGI, even though it's predominantly practical effects. But this film is able to pull off CGI that still holds up today, that still looks very reasonable and presentable. Like, I'm not sitting here cringing over how awkward the effects look. The special effects for the tornadoes in this movie especially look better than some special effects that I see from movies that have been made in the last 5 years. It's kind of ridiculous. Movies that I know have bigger budgets, movies that I know should look better. And whatever it is, whatever they are doing differently from the 90s, we need to go back to that. We need to go back to the simplistic effects, or maybe the pared down effects. Maybe they're trying too hard. I don't know, because it just doesn't really make sense. I think also the fact that this came out during a time where you didn't get a whole lot of blockbusters, or at least it's not like now when every week every movie is being released and chasing that billion-dollar box office. No, this came at a time where this movie could come out in May of 1996, have pretty much that month or two to make as much money as it needs to. It made like $495 million in the box office. So for the 90s, adjusted for inflation, that's pretty wild. And then you had Independence Day come out a couple months later, but still, there's some gap, and there's a reason why this movie was still talked about for years to come. There's a reason why people recently have been talking about this movie, not just because this other movie is coming out. This movie holds up, and this movie is fun, and this movie Has a lot going on for it, a lot more than I would have remembered unless I rewatched it. So I'm glad that I did. Very much enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below if you two have seen Twister, the original. What did you think of it? Did you like it as well? Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later.